Hey Neppers, it's me, Wild Neptune, and this is going to be the overview video for Belian, Landy, and also some new exclusive equipment. Also, there is a recall that will be going on for Green Purgus and Christie, and I'll explain why that is happening as well as a change, quote unquote, to the counter set, kind of. Anyway, before all of that though, please like, comment, and subscribe. It helps out a whole lot. Thank you for your support. Now, let's get going. Okay, we'll go over the EEs first, starting with Senya. She has one for each skill. She gets health as her bonus stat. For those wondering why it's not attack, her attack is just way too high already to give her attack, so it was always going to be health to defense, in my opinion. The first one for the S1 is going to be she heals when she attacks as proportional to her attack. We don't know what the scaling is going to be. Remember, she does have a counterattack buff she can get, so she can heal off of the counterattacks too, which is okay. The S2, it extends the buff durations by 1 turn, so we have a pretty good buff. Well, that's pretty good, but remember, the buffs are random, so sometimes they'll extend a useless buff occasionally. And the third one, for the third skill, which is the best one in my opinion, is grants greater attack buff after using the S3. And it takes priority over the counterattack. So that means the greater attack buff will be the first buff in the strip order if it gets stripped off. So I don't know how much this changes Senya. Like, it doesn't really change anything too much in her kit, so we'll have to see. Mildred, he has an attack bonus, and he has 3, 1 for his S2 and 2 for his S3. The S2 one, it increases his CR an additional 5% when an enemy is defeated, which is pretty good, especially if you can defeat multiple enemies within, one of his rotations. It's kind of win more. Honestly, the first S3 one will increase his damage of his S3 by 10%, and then the other one will increase his crit hit damage. Well, it'll give him a buff, like a crit hit damage buff for 2 turns after he uses S3 too. So I feel like the best one is the S2 because I don't think you need. I don't know if 10% extra damage on the S3 is good enough to use. And if you already went once with him with his S3 the first time, and you manage to actually kill something, you're probably winning. A lot of these feel like win more type EEs that I don't think really pushes him into like high-end cleave. Really. And then finally we have Blue Karen, who gets effectiveness. So this is clearly aimed for PvE, for Wyvern, and also Banshee too. The first, she has 1 for each skill. So her S1 it'll increase her CR by 15% after using her S1, which is nice. The S2, it will dispel a buff from the enemy. When using the S2, and it happens before the debuff, so to have, say, immunity, you dispel before, and then you defense break, and then you get the extra turn, obviously. This might be okay in PvP. I don't know if Blue Karen can get to a point where she does enough damage and is fast enough to like really be a thing, right? And then the S3 will inflict 2 bleeding effects on the enemy for 2 turns. And this is really good for Wyvern. So like, it's good for all Wyvern and Banshees, really. So for Wyvern, it's good for one-shots, obviously, because you have 2 extra debuffs for a Sigrid S3 burst, if you use that team. And just for a normal Wyvern team, it's 2 debuffs for 2 turns, right? On a unit that you're already building with effectiveness, which is pretty nice. And also for Banshee, if you use Karen for Banshee for your defense break, it means that your Bikin, which if you use her, will have those bleeds to detonate, right, afterwards, and that will lower that gear requirement even more so for that hunt, too. So, all in all, I think the Karen one for PvE is really good. The Vildred one is going to be... It'll make him better, but I don't think he'll be used. And the Senio one is like a wait and, wait and see. I don't use Senio myself, so... Okay, now. So, there is going to be a recall for both Green Purgus and for Christy, the Grass 3-star. The reason why this is happening is because the counterattack they have in their skills was being applied incorrectly. So, when counterattacks happen, they're supposed to happen independently of each other for each check. So, it would check if you have counter set on for that check, and then it would also check if for the skill, right? So, Purgus has a built-in counterattack in his kit, and so does Christy, and instead of doing separate checks, they were adding them together, which means that they were counterattacking much more often, usually, than they should have been. Keep in mind that because it is a RGB, you do not get a selector for it. Those are only for MLs, so you just get back whatever you put into your Purgus if you have him, or your Christy if you built her too. Honestly, Christy's a 3-star. That doesn't really matter that much for the recall. But if you have a built Purgus, I probably would suggest you do the recall on him, as he's not really being utilized right now. And the other thing, I don't know if it's here somewhere, but apparently counter set was a lie, like, the whole time. So apparently counter set has been 30%. This entire time, it seems. And obviously it showed 20%. Right? Oh, here we go, yeah. So it's right here. In addition, with the counterattack set values was shown lower than it actually is, will be fixed. So, all those times where, wow, they're counterattacking way too often. This is why. Because it wasn't 20%. It was 30%, apparently. Like, for 3 years. For 3 years. So every time you have like a counter attack, like a degen army, and he never counters attacks, remember, your luck is actually much worse than you think it is. Right? This is like we get 20 leaves, right? And a million gold because of this, right? But in the grand scheme of things, this doesn't change anything, right? Because if it's always been 30% and people just didn't know, it's whatever, right? But it's like, what else could they be in the game? Just think about this. What else could there be that the numbers might not be like exactly as they are on, the tooltip, right? Because somebody was drunk one day when they were doing this, and they hit like one numbers instead of another one, right? So, only time will tell. And now for the units. First up is going to be Landy. She's going to be a limited unit. That means that you cannot get her in Covenant pulls after she goes away. So for this brief window you have, it's the only time you'll have for, probably a few months now. And this is my Landy. Right now, she has pretty, I'd say, this is about average for where I am. She is triple S, she is a plus 15 unit, and every Mola is important for her. She has basically 2 builds now. One of them is going to be a speed set with immunity, like this one. Another one will be bulkier on something like counter set with a bloodstone. This is Guiding Light, which is going to be, for general purposes, her best in slot artifact. Unfortunately, this is also a limited artifact that is with Cerise, so if she ever comes, that's where you'll get this one from. And she's just very strong. Arguably the strongest DPS in the game, right? If you watch my tier list videos, you'll understand why. Her S3 is an AoE. It will increase your team's speed, your whole team, increase the CR. Also, it can trigger counterattack. And if she has full focus, she penetrates defense by 50%, which is on an AoE, which is really good. And the Soul Bird is an extra turn, which is insane. Because even if she can't S3 2 times in a row, her S1 will also give her a CR boost, right? And gives her some Fighting Spirit. And double the Fighting Spirit if the enemy is buffed. And her S2 increases her attack by 20% every time she takes a turn. This includes... So, let's say your souls, you can soul bring the S3, attack again, and on your next turn, you already have a 60% attack buff, which is, like, insane. Landy is the best tank, one of the best tank busters in the meta. There's a reason why the, like, sustained bulk, like, stall compositions pre-ban Landy a lot, right? The only time they don't is when they're running them themselves on, like, a Bloodstone counter build, right? Otherwise, they'll probably ban her. Now, she does have some more counterplay now than she used to. Like, Red Mercedes is really good against her, right? Charlotte, stuff like that too. But in general, Landy is a top-tier threat. Just be aware that if you don't have Guiding Light, I would say that Guiding Light is maybe like 25 to 30% of most Landy's overall power right now, as just the fact that you can RNG into stealth and the enemy team can't do anything about it sometimes is maybe a little bit too strong, honestly. But there is no... But unless you don't have a need for Landy, as you already have her, there is no reason not to pull on her. As for her artifact, it is Wall of Order. So what it does is it gives you a chance to proc greater attack buff. Based on the number of buffs that the enemy has, it is random. It also has a built-in thing where after an AoE, it will boost the CR to cast it by 10%. And cannot be activated by counter dual like extra attack, right? So the artifact is just too inconsistent, right? If the enemy doesn't have any buffs or very few buffs, you'll never see the gap, right? And the value on something like Guiding Light or Bloodstone, which are, again, the two artifacts that she actually uses, is much higher for Landy. Now, there has been some tech with stuff like Sigrid with Wall of Order, or something like Bryceria, but even then, it's probably not good enough to pull on. Even as a limited artifact, I would say get one of them just in case they buff it to being pretty good, because again, it is limited, but I have one at a pretty high limit break, and I think it's awful, right? So, and finally we have Belian. So she's going to be a light knight in the Moonlight pool. And here she is right here. Her sprite is really, really good looking. So her abilities are going to be, her S1 will attack all enemies, so it's an AoE. It will have a 50 with, let me see here, 65, looks like, 65% chance with Molas to dispel a buff. Remember, on an AoE, so that's pretty good. And she will have a 35% chance, when she uses it on her turn, to proc a bonus attack incursion, which will decrease the speed and hit chance for one turn on all enemies, and it will scale with her max health. So we see right here, maybe you'll get the bonus attack. There we go. There's the incursion, and see right there. Very nice combo. Her S2, it will give her a buff at the start of her turn, but the important thing is that it decreases the souls acquired by the enemy by 100%. This means no, if they have a book, it doesn't work with Belian. So teams that rely on book, like a lot of cleave teams, they have to ban Belian. But this is good against more things than just cleave. Like, imagine if you bring this in against control, right? And if control can never soul burn anything, it's just dead, right? Like, it'll take a while probably to kill them, but if they can utilize souls, it's over for them, right? So I think Belian is going to be very strong against more things than just cleave. Even in general, like, just denying a initial soul burn sometimes by, like, a Spectre or a Landy can also be, like, really key. So, her S3 is an AoE. It will attack the enemies with the power of duties. I don't know what that means, but it decreases CR by a random amount between 20 and 40%. And 20 to 40% is a pretty big number, honestly. It also provokes and increases the caster's defense for a turn, and will also, of course, scale with her max HP. So there's that. It also gives her another buff. It looked like. Oh, okay, never mind. The buff she got was from the S2. That's right. So just over there, she got the heal buff for one turn, but she just went again, and it triggered off. Okay, so that's basically what her kit's gonna do. Units that do things without having to, like, attack really to do it are, in my opinion, always strong, right? So she does something passively that just happens, and that's really good. I do think, as long as her damage is okay, she's going to be a meta changer in World Arena. I think she's that good. I think she is a must-pull unit. So that's the video. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope it was helpful. Again, thanks for watching. I'm Neptune. It's been a good one. Nep out.